Down to business.
When he drinks, he thinks.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the #1 liquid-fueled, liquid lubricated show on the interwebs, and I am your truth-telling host, Rick. Got a couple people out there. I see y'all. You're out there on the Rumble channel for sure. I haven't seen anybody pop in on YouTube or Facebook yet, but that's fine because Rumble is where the party is at, people. Rumble is the party. So if you happen to be on Facebook or over on YouTube and want to get with a bunch of fellow patriots who are listeners and watchers of this broadcast, hop on over to Rumble, put in your, get a subscription or get a username and password over there and hop on over to Rumble and join in the party, because that seems to be where most of the people that I am dealing with is over there. So, but anyway, okay. So tonight I've got a couple of things. I've got a couple videos that I found them a little hilarious. I'm going to start off with that. And then we're going to get into a little bit of what's happened with Trump at Mar-a-Lago because of the fact that they declassified the search warrant. And I want to bring up a couple of things about that and that kind of thing. I also have a really, really compelling question for question of the week this week, or questions for whiskey this week, because of the fact that, the individual it was kind of like, hey, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But I find it intriguing because it pulls out something that I think has kind of fallen through the cracks a little bit because of the fact that we have so much other things going on. And then if I have an opportunity to get to it, something has happened with the Inflation Increasing Act, or, well, they call it the Inflation Reduction Act, but something has happened, not with the act itself, but a very interesting revelation about one of the authors of the act came out just yesterday, I believe it is. And so I'm going to cover that as well, if I get to it. But first, before I do that, let me go ahead and bring up my chosen affiliate for the evening. And the Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one mission: to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following 3 key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure and protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.whiskeymusings.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and related information. My affiliate link, once again, is IOTC, that's India Oscar Tango Charlie, .whiskeymusings, all lowercase, all one word, .online, to get great content to learn about our historical founding and support the show in the process. That's iotc.whiskeymusings.online. Or if you want to just purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution. It's got great water-resistant pages on the inside. It is just absolutely fabulous. It is buddy tested and buddy approved with the stitching in. Look at that. Look at that. It's stitching binding. It is absolutely fabulous. It's got great little, it's about a 1/8 inch thick. This thing has a 100-year warranty, okay, for manufacturing defects in terms of the workmanship and the materials. You'll be passing this down at your funeral. It'll be probably one of the most sought after items, one of the most sought after items that you have, especially if we keep going the way that we're going, because a lot of these are going to become very scarce. Now, that being said, you can get that to support the show and go to constitution.whiskeymusings.online. And that is all lowercase, all one word, or well, all lowercase, constitution.whiskeymusings.online. Go check them out. Go check out the Institute on the Constitution today. And I thank them for allowing me to be a brand ambassador, a affiliate, and de facto salesman for some of their stuff. Yeah, anyway. All right. Now, before I get into the main meat of the show, of course, tonight is Saturday. And so Saturday, we have On This Day in American History. And of course, as I do every single Saturday, I read a page for the date out of the American Patriots Almanac. This is a great book. It has been revised, updated, and expanded. It is by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. It has individual days and little factoids about this great country that we call home. It also, in terms of history, it also has several other pieces of information, like even the Constitution. I think I showed that last week. And so it is awesome. And it's great. You can just read out of it every day. They have something for each day, which of course I read here, for your entertainment and pleasure. But tonight we're going to talk about one of the most famous women in the Wild West. Her name is Annie Oakley. Today is the birthday of sharpshooter Annie Oakley, born Phoebe Ann Moses in 1860 in a cabin in Darke County, Ohio. She shot her first shot at age 8. Quote, "One of the best shots I ever made," she later said, and soon began shooting rabbits to help feed her destitute family. Around age 15, she started shooting game for a nearby grocer who sold it to hotels. She earned enough to pay off the mortgage on her widowed mother's house. When expert marksman Frank Butler passed through the area, Annie entered a shooting match against him. "I almost dropped dead when a slim little girl in short dresses stepped out to the mark with me," Butler recalled. They each shot at 25 pigeons. Butler hit 24, Annie hit all 25. "Right then and there, I decided if I could get that girl, I would do it," Butler said. They courted and married. She adopted the stage name Annie Oakley, and they performed together in shooting exhibitions. Buffalo Bill hired them for his Wild West shows. Crowds lined up to see her shoot the flame off a distant candle or the heart in the Ace of Hearts. She shot apples from her husband's head and ashes off cigarettes in his mouth. Sometimes she shot backward, looking into a mirror. The Sioux chief, Sitting Bull, called her Little Sure Shot and admired her so much that he adopted her. When touring in Europe, Germany's crown prince, the future Kaiser Wilhelm, invited her to shoot a cigarette out of his mouth. She demurred, but did shoot a cigarette out of his hand. The Broadway musical Annie Get Your Gun, with songs by Irving Berlin, is based on Annie Oakley's life. Will Rogers called her, quote, "the greatest rifle shot the world has ever produced. Nobody took her place. There was only one." And that is today's On This Day in American History. All right. Tonight, actually, I am drinking a mixed drink. I am not going straight. This is an oddity for me, but I essentially did well, we'll call it spiked lemonade, or we'll actually call it maybe like a poor man's whiskey sour. But I basically took whiskey and lemonade and mixed it together, two of my favorite drinks, and put it all together. And the whiskey for tonight is the rest. There's nothing left in the bottle of my proper number 12. So, and actually, at first I kind of thought this was going to be not so good, but it actually turned out to be quite nice, So it is, it's a whiskey and lemonade kind of night. All right. So the first thing that I wanted to bring up, I've got a couple videos here, and they're really short. One of them is animated. One of them is actually from a reporter on the street, and I pulled them off of Twitter. So if you want to go, I do have the Twitter links in the description of the video, so you can go and take a look at those and grab them. But here's the thing: is I found them hilarious, and the reason being is because once again, Donald Trump is in the crosshairs. Not that he ever left it. For some reason, these people who have, Trump derangement syndrome, I'm telling you, the TDS is strong in the left, and every single time they try to dart him with something, and he either misses, they either miss the mark, or they slide, they I don't know, they hit him and it just bounces off. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of people started calling him Teflon Don, because nothing seems to stick to the man. And even this latest thing, and I'll explain in just a little bit, but even this latest thing is kind of tough. So I saw a couple of these, and so I wanted to bring them to your attention because, again, I thought they were hilarious. So let me go ahead and slide on over here. So this first one is going to be an animated, and it's basically going to, well, I'll let you look at it and you guys figure it out. Anyway, here we go. Oh, I got to bring it up. Hang on.
Orange man bad.
Orange man bad.
Orange man.
Orange man.
Orange man.
Orange man bad. Diversity is our strength. Gender is a social insult. White people must be abolished. Real communism hasn't been tried yet. He will not divide us. This need is dehumanizing.
Why?
I'm sorry. Just the ending of that is just, oh, it's just freaking hilarious, especially when they put up the Windows blue screen of death across all of the gray people. It's just, I'm sorry. That's just it's a tech thing, I guess. It's just a tech thing, but it is hilarious in my mind because, I mean, that's literally how these people are acting. It's like they get their talking points from the mainstream media and they immediately just sit there and regurgitate them. They don't think for themselves. You saw the spinning wheel on the gray guy's head when he was watching the mainstream media, and they literally cannot think for themselves. And so it's stuff like this that just, I mean, it's hilarious. I'm sorry. I just gotta laugh. Oh my gosh. Oh man, it's just crazy. Anyway, so yeah, so there's that one. Now here's another one. Okay. So here's another one that, so right after Trump, I got to kind of set this up. So right after Trump had the raid on Mar-a-Lago, protests kind of broke out. And you would think protest in the idea of, people who were protesting over the fact that the FBI raided Mar-a-Lago with what it seemed to be a little information or little probable cause. Okay. But what happened was in New York, a group of TDS individuals went to Trump Tower and they had a banner they made a banner, and they put this banner up. They were holding it up in front of Trump Tower, and it was like, arrest Trump. And so this obvious journalist, and I'm not sure if I can necessarily call him that, because that's just an evil word nowadays. But there was a interviewer, I'll call him, who went over and asked one of them, said, hey, can you talk to me, so on and so forth, and asked them a question. Well, this is really, really short. Okay. Really short. So you gotta pay attention really quick when I turn this on. But this is, again, how they think. Take a listen.
Is this unprecedented to arrest a former president for not turning in documents?
A former president that had committed this many provable criminal acts.
What are the provable criminal acts, I guess?
Provable criminal acts. Well, I'm done talking.
Now, it cut off faster. It cut off faster than what I didn't. That was the edit on the Twitter feed. I just took it off of Twitter. But he's like, I'm done talking. So you hit these people up with facts and evidence and logic and reason, and they just melt down because they literally cannot think for themselves. And I've been watching, Twitter and some of the other social media outlets that are not, especially Twitter, that are not pro conservative, and they all are like, they're all just like, oh, he's going to get caught this time. He's going to be in jail. He's going to be gone. This is great. And they're celebrating this whole thing. And of course, this follows on with, Biden and the whole passing of the Inflation Increasing Act is what I call it. But anyway, so they're going along and they're just going off on all of this stuff. And of course, there's conversations. There's a lot of people who are like, you do realize that Obama took a bunch of documents home. You do realize that he actually has so much that I've heard it reported it would take until, I think, 2060 or something like that to catalog everything that's there. So anyway, it just... I'm sorry. I cannot believe. I mean, my wife and I were sitting and talking earlier this afternoon, and she read me something, and honestly, I don't recall what it was, but she was just basically asking me. She's like, "How is it that these people can do this? Can even talk about this?" And it's just, I mean, it's just there. Where did we get all of this stupid? I mean, honestly, I am still baffled trying to figure out where we got all this stupid. But you know what? We have it. We have it today. All right. So let me get on to the warrant. Okay. The raid warrant. All right. And so it was unsealed, by the judge at the behest of the DOJ, which I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of surprised about, because I sort of expected that they would drag their feet, but they came out fairly quickly and said, hey, we're gonna go ahead and unseal this. And what a lot of people didn't understand is they thought that Trump could actually make it public. And the reality of it is he nor his lawyers can actually do that. When you have a sealed document coming from the courts, it actually has to travel through the courts, do a couple motions. I mean, the legal system is like the key pattern. If you really want red tape, just follow the legal system. I mean, everything is, very detailed to the nth degree. And it's also a very, very procedural heavy for all of these things. And so anyway, sorry, I was looking at the chat. I was watching a couple people came in. This is great. Thank you for joining. I do appreciate it. As always, I appreciate all my subscribers and listeners. So the point here, though, is that Trump nor his lawyer could actually unseal the document. They can talk about what was there, but they could not talk about what was sealed in the document itself until everything was everything was laid out on the table. Now, here's the thing. So that Trump unsealed, and I'm going to pop over. Hold on. So let me get over here because I got to show this. So, you know, the judge unseals it. And what was funny is that whenever you have a warrant, now I'm not a legal person, so I don't want to pretend like I know the legal system inside and out. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not even a paralegal. Okay. But the thing about this is it's very, very revealing what they are attempting to accuse Trump of, because they're trying to gather evidence under a couple of statutes. And the main ones that they call out in this article, and this is from the Epoch Times, by the way, and the link again is in the description. You can go and look for it yourself. But the 7-page warrant basically authorized the FBI to search his property. And it shows that Trump is under federal investigation for obstruction of justice, as well as the Espionage Act, and of course for the improper handling of classified documents, the USC 2071. So those are the three that they pulled out, and these are the numbers of those. They're right here in the article. And so what I did is I just went ahead and you know, went to Cornell Law. I've done it before on this program. I've Cornell Law, and I went ahead and took a look at the statutes. So the first one we're going to look at here just is 793. And this one is actually the most damning out of the three. And by the most damning, I don't mean that, I don't necessarily mean that Trump has done this, okay? But this is what they are suspecting and alleging, that he violated this law. And this particular law has to deal with espionage, and especially transmitting this information to another foreign entity. So this is what they're going after him for. Now, you know, this might look a little familiar to some of us who have a little bit longer of a memory than just 3 months ago, or just last year, or even just 2 years ago. Because if you remember, back in 2015-ish, another high-ranking official, and I've got something on that, but another high-ranking official was accused of this particular statute. And I've got that here in just a minute. So just remember, U.S. Code 790, Section 793. So 18 U.S. Code Section 793. So the other two, obviously, that they're going after. So this one here, this is 2701. 2701 is unlawful access to stored communications. They're basically talking about this being that he no longer had the ability to view confidential and top secret information and things like that. And there's been a couple of people, and actually CNN did a really good piece on this, believe it or not, talking about the compartmentalization of the federal government, where you have top secret up at the top secret with sensitive compartmented information. So TS/SCI at the top. Then you have top secret. Then you have classified. You can have various sub-levels in between each one of these, and then you would have just confidential down at the bottom. And so each one has to be handled in a different manner. For example, a top secret with sensitive compartmental information, so the TS/SCI, that has to be, that those documents can only be viewed in an area where special countermeasures have been taken, known as a SCIF, a sensitive compartmental information. God, I can't remember what the F stands for, but anyway, it does like electronic countermeasures and so on and so forth. So each one of these, all right, is each one of these levels has different ways that you can handle it. And what they're basically saying is that Trump had unlawful access to these communications. And one thing that did come out that I think a lot of people missed, but is a crucial and key piece out of all of this, is the fact that Donald Trump didn't himself go through and like box all of those things up. Okay. They did not do that. The Government Services Administration, GSA, is the ones that boxed them up and shipped them to Mar-a-Lago. Now, the funny thing about this is there was actually an article, I don't have it, but I did see a hint that the GSA has actually stated that if any classified information ended up in those boxes, that because they boxed it up, it's their fault, not Donald Trump's. So that's the first thing that has come out since this. So it's entirely possible that Trump himself, because he didn't actually box them up himself, he may get away because with the whole idea of what is essentially plausible deniability. So there's that. And then let me go ahead and show you the third statute that they're after. So the third statute that was listed in the warrant had to deal with the destruction, alteration, or falsification of records in federal investigations and bankruptcy. And so this one here is when somebody knowingly alters, mutilates, destroys, etc. You can go and look it up and read the actual text yourself. But this particular statute has to deal with whether or not you knowingly did it or not. Okay. And that's the key, is whether you knowingly did it. If you did it on accident, you technically can't be accused. Well, you can be accused, but you can't be guilty of this particular section. So again, the key section that they're after here is 793. And why do I say that? Because of the fact, and I'm going to pull out my little Constitution here, but because of the fact in the 14th Amendment, there is a section, and I want to bring this up as soon as I can find it. All right, that's not it. That's 15th. Here we go. All right, 14th Amendment, Section 3. Within the text of Section 3, it talks about that if anyone, president, vice president, officer, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, who, having previously taken an oath as a member of Congress or as an officer of the United States or as a member of any state legislature or as an executive or judicial officer of any state to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. Okay. So what they're saying is in this, and I didn't read the top line, which is essentially no person shall be take any of those positions. And so this is what they're really after. They are after this, not only with January 6th, but also in this particular case, they are trying to prove that he committed espionage by transmitting this information. And this is part of the reason why they are going after him for this stuff. Now, the funny thing about this, again, if you recognize U.S. Code 793, there's a particular person who probably about 6-7 years ago was accused of the exact same thing. Who could that have been? Well, let's take a look in the archives. Yes, Hillary Clinton, because of her email server being insecure and potentially been accessed by a foreign entity, she was accused of violating 18 USC Section 793. And in this particular case, they focused, the probe was actually focusing specifically on the gross negligence part of the provision for the espionage. Okay. So that was what they first started off with, was the gross negligence. So then what they did is they also went and took a look, and eventually they flipped the probe and they were focusing on gross negligence, but then they flipped it and they went to intent. So if she intended on transmitting this information, this is specifically 793, specifically what the FBI, in this case, Director Comey and the rest, protected Hillary Clinton from. So, you know, honestly, I again, it's going to be a little difficult to prove because of the fact they are going to have to show, obviously, that this was gross negligence, which he has documentation and evidence that the FBI was down in June. He met them himself. They told him to lock up the door. He had the Secret Service purchase the lock and put it on. I'm sure that there's receipts for that. There's a paperwork trail for all of that. So he was doing, in terms of Trump, maybe not Trump himself, but at least the Trump office of the former president was actually doing what the FBI was suggesting that he should do. So I'm really suspicious as to whether or not they are actually going to make any of this stick outside of the court of public opinion. And especially because we now have precedents set by these hearings and by the FBI and specifically by the FBI that they will not go after somebody unless they can prove intent. And so trying to prove intent in a court of law, a real court of law, is very difficult to do. And so they're going after this. This kind of seems, honestly, like an act of desperation. I'll be honest with you. This seems like they literally are having problems trying to get him. January 6th was pretty much a bust. I showed you that on the last, on my last episode. I showed you the polling numbers. You know, people are not. They're just not enamored with January 6th. Nobody wanted to watch that. And even if they did, it didn't really shift anything. It's sort of like somebody who has already made up their mind in terms of voting. Any kind of information that comes out will have an issue or will not have an effect on a person's voting if they've already made up their minds. And so that's kind of what happened with the January 6th committee. I mean, just the fact that they took forever to go ahead and do it, not saying that he did anything, because we actually know that he didn't. There are several holes in Hutchinson's testimony and everything else. I've already covered those in past episodes, so I'm not going to go through that. If you really want to know, go back and listen to my other episodes. But the thing about it is that they're going to have a really tough time trying to get this on him, realistically, in a court of law. Now, the court of public opinion is something totally different. And that is potentially where they are truly trying to target this. But we'll kind of see what happens in coming up. There's also another revelation that just came out yesterday that I'm not sure anybody really saw, but this is very, very, very important in this particular case. And that is this article that came out in Just the News. And now understand, this hasn't really been verified yet, although I'm sure that it can be by certain people who were part of the Trump administration, like Kash Patel, and potentially maybe some others who are part of his administration who could bring this up. But look at this. New twist in the FBI raid. Trump had a standing order to declassify documents taken to the residence. Now, keep in mind, the residence is physically part of the White House. It is also under Secret Service protection, but it may not have some of the additional features that one might need in order to read, let's say, top secret SCI, TSSCI documents. And so because of that, he essentially, it seems, had a standing order to declassify all the documents taken to the residence. Now, one thing that this doesn't mention is this does not mention whether or not, the documents that were taken by the FBI were actually already declassified in the White House, or whether they were declassified just on the sheer standing order, taking it to his residence in Mar-a-Lago. That hasn't really been kind of fleshed out. But apparently, the former president's office and some of the people in there have said that there was an undeclared process that led to sensitive documents being declassified and sent to Mar-a-Lago. Now, I can tell you that if that hadn't happened and the GSA was the one that put the information into the boxes and sent them, then it's not Donald Trump who is in trouble here. It's going to be somebody else who might be lower end or lower down on the chain. So there's a lot more that has to go through this. But the thing about it is if this standing order can be proven, again, in a court of law, true court of law, they don't have him. They don't have him at all. In fact, if he basically, and keep in mind too, this is another thing. I've been seeing this on Twitter so much today. Everybody has, everybody who actually believes that they might have Trump on this, they keep saying Trump can't just declassify documents. And technically now that's correct. But if he declassified these documents, if they were actually shipped in January when he left the Oval Office, and this standing order was here, so if they can prove that the standing order was there and that that shipment went before he left office, there's nothing anybody can do, because there's not a process necessarily. If the president decides this is declassified, that's it. It's declassified. The president is the de facto main person and authority to declassify documents. Period. He's the top of the chain. There's nothing else. There's none of this sending it off to Congress. There's no other process. The president can declassify and classify documents. He is, as a part of the Constitution, he is the sole owner of that process. And so if Donald Trump had this standing order and those boxes got shipped by the GSA prior to Trump leaving office, guess what? Case is gone. There is no case. And the FBI has literally fallen flat on its face with this. Okay. So speaking of the FBI, all right, we know that the FBI has taken a lot of flack. Okay. We know this. We know that there was a person in Ohio tried to get into a FBI headquarters. Apparently he was on site in January 6th. That's the reports that I'm hearing, things like that. So here's the deal. All right. Do not play their game. Don't fall into it. If you're planning on doing something, don't do this. Vote. Just vote. Vote like your freedom depends on it. That's the only thing that we can do right now to try and win 2022. Resorting to violence, political violence or otherwise, is not the path forward. I've said it before on this show. I'm saying it again. It's unequivocally, that is not the path forward. Whether you feel like you need to do it or not, that is not the path forward. Now, that being said, it's sort of interesting how a lot of people who were against the police and were for defunding the police and doing the ACAB, all cops are bad or all cops are bastards, whichever way you want to go, and were for attacking police. Okay. All of those people are coming out right now and they're saying, oh no, protect the FBI, because the FBI is doing good. It's doing, the good work for us. And the thing about it is that, yeah, they are doing the good work, but here's the problem. They're not focused in the right direction. They're not focused in the correct direction because of the fact that, hey, you know what? You want to investigate Trump? That's fine. The problem here for most people like myself is simply that they are only going after Trump. If you are really a organization that you follow the motto that you have, fidelity, bravery, and especially integrity, you would be investigating everyone. Like Hunter Biden, you wouldn't have covered up the laptop. Hillary Clinton, you wouldn't have allowed her to go ahead and do the thing that she did with the emails, because she literally did break the law by having an insecure server. End of story. There is specific laws that have to deal with digital documents and that kind of stuff. Okay. So if the FBI itself is not doing their job, which is essentially to be a disinterested third party in this case, then they would be investigating everybody that has even a remote. I mean, Eric Swalwell with Fang Fang. We already know. I mean, there's enough evidence to show that she is a Chinese spy and he banged her. They're not even going after her or him. So I have a bit of a problem with people who are sitting here and trying to say that the FBI is completely unbiased. That being said, again, don't go after them. Okay. But you also have to understand too, that there was a event that happened here not too long ago where we have, Supreme Court justices that were picketed, okay, protested against for during their deliberations on the Dobbs case. And that literally is 18 USC Code Section 1507 that they broke. Okay. But the FBI didn't even bother to do anything about it. I mean, you had it on film. You knew they were there. And in fact, there was even a gentleman who went and tried to attempted to or turned himself in the right before he decided to go after Kavanaugh and his family. And so I'm sorry, but the FBI, like I said last episode, was that we've lost all integrity. But Christopher Wray in particular, and also we can even add on to the whole Russian Steele dossier and everything else, the FISA warrant that they got for the Russia hoax, all of that stuff. Okay. So Christopher Wray issues this statement. Let me get it up here. I think, let's make sure. Yeah, it's this one. All right. So he issues this statement within the last, 48 hours or so. And he says, unfounded attacks on the integrity of the FBI erode respect for the rule of law and are a grave disservice to the men and women who sacrifice so much to protect others. Violence and threats against law enforcement, including the FBI, are dangerous and should be deeply concerning to all Americans. Every day I see the men and women of the FBI doing their jobs professionally with rigor, objectivity, and a fierce commitment to our mission of protecting the American people and upholding the Constitution. I am proud to serve alongside them. There's several problems with that statement. One, they're not upholding the Constitution. If they were, they'd be going after all of the Democrats that we have evidence on. They would be investigating Hunter Biden. They would be making sure that Joe Biden is actually not compromised. They would even take a look at somebody like Merrick Garland, who now he signed off on this warrant. Now it's interesting that they declassified the warrant, but they didn't declassify or didn't unseal the affidavits that led to the warrant. So that's kind of interesting that they haven't done that. I'm going to look at that here in the near future and see if maybe they're going to pop those up. But I'm sorry, Mr. Wray, or Director Wray, I agree with you. Police should not be attacked, but neither should anybody else. And your misuse of authority doesn't give you a pass for all of this other stuff. I disagree. And I definitely disagree with your statement, because I don't believe that they are using objectivity. I don't believe they are upholding the Constitution. And you guys definitely don't have a respect for the rule of law, because this is the first time ever that that a president has been investigated completely for documents that he declassified before he left. If that was the case, where's the raid on Obama? Because there's so many documents there, they don't even have a full accounting of those documents. So I'm sorry, but your statement falls flat, just like the rest of your situation when it comes to that stuff. I'm just saying right now, that's what I'm just saying. All right. Now, okay. All right. I have a piece. Hat tip to Dan Bongino, because Dan Bongino actually really likes this guy, but hat tip to Dan Bongino for pointing it out. If you haven't read this piece, it is extremely important to read it. This is a piece that is by Michael Anton. It's in a magazine called Compact magazine. And what he outlines is a 5-step process, not a plan necessarily, but a 5-step process that they are trying to do and follow to not allow Donald Trump to get back into office. Now, what I'm really curious about, again, I'm seriously wondering, what does this man really have on these people that would cause him to undertake so much for little reward? I mean, seriously. And why, if he has something, why is he holding back? Honestly, I would think that if he had any information on these folks, that he would just like leak it like WikiLeaks, and get it out there on the internet. But that being said, they are, the left in particular, and especially the swamp, is really, really, really pushing for him to not come back, period. And so this piece by Michael Anton, let me bring it up. This piece by Michael Anton, here we go. And they can't let him back in. And he outlines, like I said, 5 particular individual items that they're trying. So you got to read the entire piece. I'm not going to read through everything, but I am going to highlight the individual plans that they have out there. So Plan A is, and I got to find this. So where is it? Oh goodness, I lost it. Where is it? Oh, shoot. All right, so here we go. Okay, I see Plan B. So let me see if I can find Plan A. Here it is. All right, so Plan A right here is to use the January 6th show trials to make it impossible for Trump to run again, or barring that, to win again. So they're essentially, and that's the statement right here, so they're essentially trying to say that, they're hoping that January 6th, the show trials will actually do it. Well, I already showed you last week, they haven't really swayed opinion very much. They really haven't. So the next thing is that for Plan B is for January 6th committee to lay the groundwork for an indictment. All right. Now, this is where they're at. That's where I think the whole going after him for especially the Espionage Act part, I think is where they are focusing right now. That's what this whole FBI thing is all about. They're trying to gather evidence to get the Justice Department put together for seditious conspiracy, espionage, whatever they can do so that they can declare him unfit, again, under Section 3 of the amendment. Wait a minute. Did I say the 14th? Yes, the 14th Amendment. Under the 14th Amendment, Section 3, they want to make sure that he cannot get back in office. All right. Now, the thing about it is that's going to be hard to freaking prove. And especially in a court of law, they tried to do it in the January 6th committee, and they haven't really budged anybody. And honestly, it really they allowed hearsay, which is never in a court of law. They allowed people for conjecture and that kind of stuff. That's never allowed in the court of law. So that's going to be a bit tough for him to do this. Now, of course, they're going to try this in DC, by the way. They're definitely going to do that. But honestly, I think Merrick Garland sort of stepped on his dick. And I'm sorry for that reference, but I think he stepped on it by doing this FBI raid, and especially under what seemingly is minor infractions, if at all. Because like I talked last episode. The 2701 is barely enforceable, and it certainly doesn't qualify for him to be eliminated from running. Okay. Now, so the next one, let's see, where's the next one? Okay. So if plan A and plan B don't work, they are going to go plan C, which again is ineligible under the insurrection clause of the 14th Amendment. Now, Michael Anton says this is riskier than plan B because if they couldn't get a Senate vote in favor and absent any kind of conviction, he doesn't think they would, it would come down to mere court opinion. And I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think so either, because of the fact that again, I mean, right now, there's nothing going on in terms of swaying somebody as far as January 6th is concerned. So they can't do A, they can't do B. They're failing at B. They're probably going to fail at C. So what's plan D? Well, plan D is to just beat him at the ballot box. And this is the one that we need to be very, very careful of because of the fact that we have evidence that's coming out. Now, granted, I'll tell you, I haven't been sold yet on the idea that there was enough fraud to cause the election to get thrown. However, there is enough there to make sure that everything, and I do mean everything, gets audited and a serious hard look be taken. The integrity of our election systems is over with. Okay. It's gone until we can figure out a way to get it back. All right. Now, that being said, Anton pulls this out, the country is in desperate shape. Biden is enormously unpopular. I've shown that. I've told you that multiple times. Harris is spectacularly unpopular. Getting rid of one of them by themselves will be hard, although I'm not quite sure Biden is probably the easier target of the two to get rid of, especially dealing with the 25th Amendment or something like that. However, to get rid of both of them, though, might be tough. And the reason that I'm saying that is because as much as I would love to see both of them get impeached after 2022 elections, especially now that we're looking like we're not going to take the House, as far as that is kind of getting to be a longer and longer shot. I honestly think that we'll just end up in the same boat that the Democrats did with a Republican controlled Senate and a Democrat controlled House with Trump's impeachments. He'll get impeached or they'll get impeached, but they won't get removed from office, which is the sole discretion of the Senate to go ahead and do that. All right. Now, okay, so they're going to have, even if they could get rid of both of them, they're going to have somebody to come in behind them, and you've got literally no bench. I mean, even Gavin Newsom, as popular as he might be in California, that's California. And the rest of the country knows very well what California is like. There's no issues with that whatsoever. And the alternative choice on the Republican side, of course, is Ron DeSantis if Trump doesn't go and Trump doesn't win. But Ron DeSantis is going to stay in Florida at least. I believe he's going to stay there. He's already said he will. But he's going to stay there for up until at least probably 2028 is when I first think that Ron DeSantis will make his run at the presidency. Okay. Now, Gavin Newsom is not popular. There's really nobody. I mean, even some of the darlings like Pete Buttigieg, some of the darlings like Elizabeth Warren. Those people are starting to become unpopular. Even some of the younger ones like AOC, they are only popular as a part of their district. They're not popular in the rest of the country. So realistically, their shots at becoming president are very, very long. They're long shots in my book. So the last one that he brings up, Plan E, is that he's talking about cheating. And he's not talking about the Dominion voting machines. He's talking about the election fortification rules, changing the rules in advance that favor Democrats and hurts Republicans, especially in swing states. This is 100% what they are planning on doing for 2022, for sure. Okay. Some of the swing states have been able to shore up their systems, have been able to shore up some of the things in terms of the election integrity. But other places like Pennsylvania, as an example, have kind of fallen flat. The liberal court, Supreme Court, state Supreme Court over there in Pennsylvania has ruled against doing a few things. So Pennsylvania is pretty much going to be lost in this case. We're going to have some serious issues here, but I can guarantee you they are working on Plan E for sure. If A doesn't work out, which it doesn't look like it is, B looks like it's being attempted, C may be attempted along with B at the same time. D is not something that they're going to want to do because they're not going to want to risk, again, another 2016 where they thought that Hillary had it in the bag and she ended up failing. And so, honestly, Plan E is pretty much the one that they're going to be pushing on. Now, I know I caught this, and I'm sorry, Jeswig 28, I'm going to toss this up here. 2020 has to be fixed first. Honestly, I think it's a little far for us to do that. Now, the mistakes of 2020 definitely have to be fixed, but I don't think 2020 itself is going to be fixed. Okay. So realistically, we have to take what went wrong in 2020 and shore those pieces up and prevent those aspects from happening. But I don't think we're too far gone for 2020 to actually come about. Okay. So, that being said, I mean, I would love to see it, but to be honest, it's not going to happen. I mean, we're not going to go back. There is no mechanism within the Constitution once an election is certified to actually pull it apart and start back over. The only opportunity that we had was to not certify the electors the night of January 6th, which again was kind of the purpose of that they are focused on in terms of the quote unquote insurrection. That would have been the only time if the senators and representatives who were planning on speaking, because if you remember correctly, it was right before, in particular, Ted Cruz was going to object to the electors. Now, keep in mind, objecting to the electors happens every single election cycle, every single presidential election. There are objections to the electors. That's nothing new. And it's totally legal in terms of the Constitution. But the problem that we have is that the riot that happened, the penetrating of the Capitol building at the time was right when Ted was getting ready to make his speech to object to the electors. And unfortunately, after that, I mean, there were plenty of people that were reportedly going to object over a multitude of states. And all of a sudden, after everything quelled down in 3.5 hours, they got rid of everybody who was an idiot and went inside and did whatever they were going to do, which, again, I disagree with that. I think that was very stupid. I hope whoever they do that to actually does get the appropriate punishment. Let's just throw that out there. But that being said, it needs to be the appropriate punishment, not like this bullcrap that they're trying to bring up. But that being said, they essentially stopped and scared enough people who didn't have the backbone to be able to stand up and resume what they were going to do anyway. And I actually, that very well could have been planned. I don't know. It could have been set up that way from, Pelosi or whatever. I don't know. I don't know enough details about the inner workings of what was going on. All I know is that it appeared at first that we were going to have a large gathering of people who would be saying, we object to these. And they, after the fact, they kind of wimped out and didn't do it. So anyway. So that's Michael Anton's piece, at least from a very high level view. I encourage you to go look. I did include the link to it. And you can also check it out because Dan Bongino linked to it in yesterday's podcast episode. And so, that's the main thing. Now, we talked, I read about Annie Oakley, and Annie Oakley being the wild card in the deck. She was reportedly, by accounts in terms of legends, she was a off the wall shooter. She did crazy stuff. Okay. Well, if you think in the spirit of Annie Oakley, we have somebody who is sort of that spirit today in Congress. And although there's a couple people that I could tie this to, it is only one in particular that seems to be actually taking charge on this. This happened yesterday afternoon. And I want to bring this up. Check this out. Somebody, and ironically, it's a woman who finally has the cojones to do something about this particular situation. Marjorie Taylor Greene announces articles of impeachment against Attorney General Garland following the Trump raid. Now, do I think this is going to go anywhere? Absolutely not. Not in the current House of Representatives at this point, okay? But the thing about it is that she's filed them. So we have a potential starting of a paper trail. And there might be enough. There might be enough, because literally a lot of people in Congress were like, oh my gosh, if they go after Trump, they can come after me. And Rick Scott, I think, got his phone taken. And so they're taking a look and they're going, oh my gosh, this might not be good. So we may actually get some sympathy votes on something like this. But do I really think it's going to go anywhere? Probably not. But it's still fun to see. And it's fun to know that Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has a very, shall we say, colored reputation, she goes ahead and files impeachment. I actually saw a video of this. In fact, the article may even have it. Yeah, here she is out on the press conference, and she essentially, and I'm not going to play it for you, but you can go to the Post Millennial and you can see it. It's just funny. She rips it. She just basically says it real easy and really quiet. She's, not quiet necessarily, but just factual. She just states these are articles of impeachment and this is why. And it's, she's fun to watch when she deals with some of the press. She really is. I get a kick out of her just for laughs on that. But anyway, so there's that. All right. Now, I am a little over time. I'm going to go ahead and get to the question for whiskey tonight. And let me see. I switched my buttons so I wouldn't actually accidentally shoot this off. So hang on. Give me just a second. I got to get the right one. And tonight's question for whiskey actually comes from Amy Jean Viner. I don't know if I've seen her in the chat. She is probably over. Oh, I take that back. I think she may have popped over here, maybe on Facebook. Anyway, hopefully she's listening. I hope she's here. But now, she asks, why hasn't the Sixth Amendment been suspended, or why has the Sixth Amendment been suspended and not addressed for January 6th, quote, insurrectionists, unquote? I don't think any of them have been charged for insurrection. So what happened to their due process? That's by Amy Jean Viner again. All right. So, oh no, there you are. You're over on Rumble. That's great. She's right here. She's on Rumble. I thought I saw you over on Facebook. I'm sorry. I insulted you. I apologize for that. All right. So, what are we talking about with the Sixth Amendment? Well, for anyone who is a student of the Constitution would know, and again, I'm referring to my nice little book here. The Sixth Amendment basically states whoops, that's the 11th. What am I doing? Here we go. 5, 6. All right. In all criminals, I'm going to read this to you. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have been previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, and to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor, and to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. Now, one thing I want to note, so the Sixth Amendment actually refers a lot to what a lot of people get read, which is essentially their Miranda rights. That's part of them. But the key here is the right to a speedy trial. The problem that we have, honestly, Amy, is we have an issue. First of all, there is over 14,000 hours of video that they are attempting to go through. And unfortunately, they have to go through every single frame to make sure that the individual who is on trial has to go through it. That being said, they are being tried in D.C. We already know that D.C. courts are slanted to the other side. So January 6th people are not going to get necessarily treated the same way as a Democrat would within the D.C. area. So these are two things that they have that are insurmountable. The other issue that we have is, honestly, the idea of the word speedy. Speedy to most people would be, hey, that has to be fast and furious. However, you have to have, unfortunately, you have to have the trial has to be accurate, because otherwise, if a mistake is made, you're going to end up in a mistrial, and potential people will go free. So the challenges that we have here, honestly, have to deal with the court system. The court system, we all know, is slow. Okay. The court system is slow. We have all of this evidence that the prosecution is saying that it's taking them an incredibly long time to go through. And that is legal. It is a stalling tactic. It actually is. On top of all that, there are people that are out there that are trying to fight for these folks to get them a speedy trial. The big thing about this, and this happens a lot, is that if they were to go to trial, so let's say somebody actually goes to trial and they only get charged with trespassing on January 6th, they can be sentenced to what's known as time served, meaning that if they only get, let's say, 18 months or a 2-year sentence, they can actually get a credit for the time that they've been in jail, known as time served. And I think that's kind of the thought process, is that is the counterbalance to the idea that they're not getting a speedy trial. They do have several other things, and honestly, MTG, who is she has taken this under her wing. She has been going to these people. She's been trying to get into the places where they're being held, et cetera, et cetera. Do I think any of this is right? No, none of this is right. And I honestly think that after all is said and done, once everything kind of goes back to, shall we say, more of an even keel, or maybe even leaning toward the right, I think there's going to be a lot of heads that are going to roll for this particular situation. But this honestly is something that needs to be addressed. I think it needs to be undertaken. I think there are people who are at the ground level who are working really hard to get these people the fair trial that they need. And they're attempting to do this in a very, very heavily weighted system that is against them. I have not heard of anyone who has actually been charged with insurrection. I have heard of a couple oath keepers that have been charged with sedition. And yes, all of this realistically, if it can be shown that their rights have been violated, which is a pretty damn good thing, a pretty damn likely scenario, they are potentially going to have this stuff get unconstitutional. We are living in a very, very volatile time, much more so than a lot of other times in history that we've had in modern history here in the United States. And so there are a ton of things that are going on that are totally unjust, totally against the American system, that all need to be revamped, retaken, corrected, compensation given, etc. And the only way for that to happen, honestly, is if the Republicans, and by Republicans, I don't mean rhinos, I mean the true America First Republicans can get in, gain the power back, and not lose their spine when going back after these people. Okay? Now, just something like here. So Mama Five Kitty says, how is it that Ray Epps and Daniel P. Love can get away with it? I was reading an article, this is only just because this is on the topic, but I was reading an article about Ray Epps. Ray Epps is actually supplying the FBI with a bunch of information. And so I think they are giving those two in particular some leniency, maybe, in terms of prosecution. But there's plenty out there for him. I mean, he should be locked up just right there with him, because he literally says on camera, and you can search this up if you think I'm lying, but he literally says on camera the night before, hey, I think we need to go in and we need to, go into the Capitol building. I really think that's what we need to do. So he actually could be considered instigating an insurrection or doing seditious stuff around. So there's a lot of things about January 6th, not just the bullshit sorry, I try not to cuss on this show, but not just the bullshit that's happening on the Democrat side with January 6th, but I think there needs to be a full investigation once Republicans take back, hopefully, the House and the Senate. Although, again, like I said, the Senate isn't looking that good at the moment, but hopefully we can get something done. And definitely after 2024. So anyway, I mean, it's a very sad situation, and I know the mainstream media is not going to cover it. So, we'll try and keep it going. Just talk about it on social media. Make sure you get the word out, and make sure that these people can get their just due when time comes. One last little thing I wanted to show with regards to Manchin. Unfortunately, I accidentally closed it really quick, but I wanted to talk about Manchin really quick, just very, very quickly as my last thought. I know I'm over time, but Manchin, by putting together the Inflation Inducing Act, Manchin's popularity seems to have dropped. There was a poll that came out that he actually is now 30 points. Well, almost 30 points, 29, below where he was prior to authoring that bill. So maybe, just maybe, we might have a way to get rid of a Democrat who is a Democrat and has sometimes helped us, but not so much in the long run. And so maybe when he comes up for re-election, some of these people might in West Virginia might decide to get rid of that man. As much as I appreciate what he did with the whole Build Back Better, he has literally screwed us with this Inflation Inducing Act. So, anyway, and by the way, just in case nobody has heard, it did pass through the House. No Republican voted for it. All the Democrats did. So it did actually go through the House, which is nothing unsurprising. And it is expected to hit President Biden's desk for his signature or his crayon scribble, depending upon what day he actually sits down to sign it. For the moment, we'll see if it actually gets funded come 2024. We may have to live with it. I don't know. We'll just have to see. That's my final Whiskey Musings thought for the evening. Do me a favor. If you like the program, if you've come here and this is your first time and you enjoy the program and you want to be notified the next time I go live, I do go live Wednesdays and Saturdays, but do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe. Subscribers matter the most because that is what everybody is following and tracking. Views help, but subscribers are the purpose. Okay. So I'm at 224, I think, on Rumble right now. I'm at 76 on YouTube. I've got like a little over 100, like 111 or so on my Facebook page. But do me a favor, especially go to Rumble, sign up, and subscribe, because if YouTube decides that they're going to get nasty and they're going to kick me off, same thing with Facebook, Rumble will not, because that is the free speech alternative to YouTube. And I will see you Wednesday with another Pet of the Week. We've got a couple of, shall we say, Wild West characters coming up for this Wednesday's Pet of the Week. And if everything goes right, I have Jay Money for next Saturday night. An interview with Jay Money from the Mark K Show next Saturday night. And we'll see you next time on the Whiskey Musings broadcast. Good night, everybody, and have a great rest of your weekend.